live. Yeah. Welcome. Matthew, welcome to Košice. Excellent talk. Excellent. One thing you didn't mention, what do you do? I read a study where people, when they wake up nowadays, the first thing they do is to check their phones. In the old times, you used the toilet, right? But one thing you do also when you wake up is to make coffee. What is the future of coffee in our homes? Because I didn't have any.
So quite right. So when we actually have a look at, say, the future of coffee, ironically, if you really want to get slightly strange, it's something called cellular agriculture. Now, when we have a look at the coffee bean that you use to make your coffee, if it's an Arabica bean, it will come from Brazil or South America, Chile, those kinds of areas. What we've been able to do, and the company behind this is a company called Atomico. They can take the cells from a coffee bean, they put it into a kind of manufacturing device called a bioreactor, and they can make more. So we can make coffee now without the coffee bean. It's called molecular coffee. So, and apparently it's better than Starbucks. And you can have it served to you by a robot if you want, just to add a little bit of futurist stuff.
Looking forward to that. I wonder how it tastes. One thing that is important, I believe, is to predict the future. And it is extremely difficult, even if you have all the information. But sometimes you find books and authors which can predict the future. And this is what I wanted to ask personally, maybe like, do you have any recommendations on books or authors who can see the future? Because it's sometimes extremely difficult.
Yeah. So you've got authors like Yuval Harari. So when he talks about basically the future, he sort of says AI is kind of coming to kill us all. That's nice. Another one is obviously the Terminator series of books. That's it, fully autonomous hunter-killer robots. That's a good one. But on a more serious note, when you have a look at the future, ironically, the number of people, especially futurists, who say, as futurists, we are not here to predict the future because you can't. If you go and ask Porsche and say, what do you think the future will be? They will say, well, we think it will be electric cars, or at least hybrid cars, right? So on the one hand, there are many different ways that we actually can predict the future. The future of computing is quantum computing. We know that artificial intelligence will only get more powerful, more capable, these kinds of things. So there are kind of lots of books basically I read, but increasingly, I kind of always like the science fiction books, but a lot of the science fiction books are now science fact. That's it. So it's like reading a history book in some cases.
Exactly. How long do we have to wait for the future to arrive? Because it's not, the saying is it's not evenly distributed, the future is already here. However, we're in Košice. The town is beautiful, and sometimes Bangladesh, for instance, you mentioned the future of homes. People maybe cannot afford it. Some countries can sooner. So how do you see it with the even distribution, or who gets the inventions first, or how long do the people in India have to wait?
Yeah. So the future arrives at different speeds. Okay, so when we have a look at the development of technology, I can show me any science fiction thing, I will show you the video showing its science fact already. If you want me to show you videos of us using brain-machine interfaces to analyze people's thoughts and put those thoughts, those images, those videos that are playing in your head now onto TV, I can do that. I can show you tractor beams. I can show you genuine holograms, not basically Pepper's ghost, all these kinds of things. So when we have a look at the future, there's technology advances at the pace of a rocket ship. Then you've got companies basically that are trying to keep up with that, and they have to take all these different technologies, bring them together to solve a problem, integrate them, and then commercialize them. So if I show you one of the latest technologies, typically it will take between 10 to 20 years before everyone's using it. If we look at autonomous cars, if I showed you a fully autonomous vehicle today, then for everyone to be using a fully autonomous vehicle, we need 20 years of manufacturing capability. So when we have a look at the future, really there are three things we're trying to solve. There's what is the problem to solve? What are the technologies that we can combine together to solve those problems? And then there's when will it arrive? When will that solution be used by everybody? And the when, as you sort of said, comes down to, is it accessible in your local market? So look at virtual reality. So can you buy a virtual reality headset in Kozice? If you can, is it affordable? Because if it's $1 million, you're not going to get it. When we have a look at different things, is it safe? Is it reliable? If we're looking at virtual reality headsets, then is the technology convenient and invisible? It isn't still. We have virtual reality glasses coming, but that's a different topic. Is the technology regulated? So do the regulators let you drive the fully autonomous vehicle on the road? If the regulators let you drive the fully autonomous vehicle on the road, I'll say drive, is it insurable? So roughly, it takes about 10 to 20 years for these new technologies to arrive and be used en masse. However, digital technologies, if we develop a new digital technology, 4.5 billion people on the planet can use it today. But if we talk about things like 3D printed homes, it takes a long time to build the physical stuff. So digital change is faster than physical change. And then when you will start using these new technologies comes down to culture, liability, accessibility, affordability, safety, all these sorts of things.
Let us ask a question from the audience, and we have maybe 1 minute left, but we will talk until someone stops us. Yeah. What will then people do with all these AI, robotics inventions when we have so much time left?
I love that question because in the 1960s, the director of IBM basically famously said, as we see computers emerging, we'll be able to work a 4-day week. However, on the one hand, maybe these things are making us all redundant, maybe they're not. But if we think that they give back time, so AI, for example, can give us back time because if you're a software developer, we can develop software about 60% faster using generative AI than any other tools. But if you actually have a look at AI today, AI, from a work perspective, is democratizing access to all knowledge. So everyone in this room has access to almost all of the world's knowledge. What do you do with that? Secondly, they're democratizing access to almost every skill. For those of you in the room that didn't learn to code at school, you can use an AI to write code. For those of you that didn't take rocket engineering at school, you can use an AI called Hyperganic to design a rocket engine. You can use Google's AI to design new drugs and treatments. So AI unlocks access to all skills, all knowledge, and then the only thing that you have access to right here, right now, on your connected devices and phones is a market of 4.5 billion connected people. So when it comes to what do you do with all your free time, what's your purpose? What gets you out of bed in the morning? The Japanese call it ikigai. What's your purpose? What's your mission? What do you love doing? So as you get time back, what do you love doing? And then what are the tools and technologies that can help you achieve that? Good question. Is it with a deeper answer than you might have thought?
There are questions about assistance, government control, oversight, but I would like to summarize it into maybe, do we have 10 more minutes because there are changes in the program?
Yeah.
Or 1 more minute?
Someone said yes to 10.
I'll try to rephrase it. There are different views on the inventions. The question is, how do we set and discuss priorities? Because Košice need different solutions than other countries, than, let's say, Amsterdam. How do we make, like, I don't imagine there is one government, world government, that sets the priorities, but people need healthcare, right?
Yep.
And self-driving cars maybe. So how do we prioritize? What is your take on that?
So prioritization, so when we actually have a look at it at a country level or a regional level or a neighborhood level, what are the priorities? So I generally suggest that at an early life, basically priorities are good health, so that's good health and wellness, and education. If you have those two things as a basis, then you can tackle most of the things that are coming at you in the future. But if you don't have your health when you're older, it doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world, if you have all the skills and knowledge in the world, you're in bed. So you need good health, good education. Now, the way that we kind of do this, basically, are things like designing neighborhoods, basically in particular ways, and so on and so forth. But in terms of prioritization, that is down to either the government or you as a community to decide what your priorities are. Once you've decided what those priorities are, there are technologies and tools that can actually help you with those priorities, but increasingly it's like, how would you develop them? So for example, when we have a look at OpenAI, OpenAI is exporting American values to the rest of the world. The AIs that you're using are American. They aren't Slovakian. So we talk about technological sovereignty, because the needs of Košice and Slovakia are different to New York, for example. So prioritization comes down to having conversations and debates basically within your local community to really understand what matters, the values that matter, and what the major problems are. And once you understand that, then you can talk about what are the solutions.
That reminds me, education is one of the priorities I see kind of on a, like, almost number one. I have kids, they learn English with Alexa assistant. There's a question about assistants. With Alexa, they have been able to overcome this shyness of speaking to foreign person in foreign language. So what I observed is they are very happy to talk to Alexa, command her, Alexa, what is 5 times 4? Do homeworks, so I'm happy father with less work for myself. But if you extrapolate to, let's say, 10, 20 years in advance, and they'll be adults, what will their kids experience in terms of education at home? Maybe assistants, but we follow the radio, television, internet, smartphones, Alexas. What is next?
So I'm a lecturer for organisations like Carnegie Mellon, Michigan State, University of Greenwich, UCL. I also am a teacher, so I teach kids from about 8 years old through to about 18. The artificial intelligences that my 10 and 12-year-olds are actually using at the moment have a verbal IQ of 155. In 2028, the AI that you as an individual have access to will have an IQ of 1,600. And it will have 1 billion times more general knowledge than any human. These are the models we are building today. So when it comes down to education, on the one hand, you've got formal education, which is teaching you the same stuff that it taught you 100 years ago, right? Maybe 200 years ago. My students in the UK tell me, or they say to me, Why is it that education today is teaching us about the past, but not the present or the future? So on the one hand, think about that for a start. The formal education system is broken. And increasingly, the gap between what you are taught at school and the future is accelerating. So then a lot of students, basically a lot of people that I teach are relying on what we call the informal education system. If you want to learn about the latest AI, where do you go? School or YouTube? So increasingly, through AI, we can have digital humans. My daughter was 9 when we used an artificial intelligence to accelerate her learning 12-fold. We crammed a year's worth of education into 3 weeks for her. And she's dyslexic. When you look at how AI can be, and these other tools can be used to help you learn new things and learn faster, they are staggering. And a lot of that's on my YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you can see the trials that we ran, how we did it, and the results. So if you have access to an artificial intelligence that has 1 billion times more than general knowledge than any human, you simply say to the AIs, I would like to learn how to code. I would like to learn about war strategy. I would like to learn how to build a rocket. And if you know how to use these AIs, they will help you. But at the moment, we're early stage. But as these AIs become more multimodal, they can then start creating the video. So when you say, how would I create a rocket? They will start putting a video together and saying, this is how you create it. This is the ignition chamber. You know, these are the chemical reactions you need, and so on and so forth. So if we do it right, we can use technology to unlock and democratize education for everyone on the planet, whether you are young or old.
I guess it's then a tool like any other, similar to like hammer or dynamite, which can be useful or destroy us. The question about Skynet and Terminators, I see there with 0 votes, but still I'm going to ask it. Let's rephrase it in this way. We're at home, my vacuum cleaner has now a map of all the rooms, my Alexa can listen to our conversations. What can we imagine as the worst case scenario at home in future that some people, apart from stealing our digital wallets with bitcoins, will be able to achieve?
So on the one hand, you know, when we have a look at cyber criminals, they're after your digital stuff, you know, whether it's your crypto, your NFTs, whatever it happens to be, whether it's your bank accounts. But really, I think the worst thing from a home perspective is that there's kind of 2 things. Firstly, the technology companies that you're inviting into your lives, there's no privacy. You have no privacy online, you have no privacy offline at all. And the enforcement of privacy comes down to regulators. I know that the Americans continuously laugh at Europe because Europe has some of the strictest data privacy laws on earth. But do you really think that Facebook values your privacy, or TikTok? They collect 5,000 data points on you. You are their business model. You make them their money. So on the one hand, these new technologies can completely strip away your privacy. Using the Wi-Fi, I can tell you if you're going to have a heart attack and when you're going to have a heart attack. I can send that information to your life insurance company, who then terminate your cover today. So on the one hand, we've got the wrongful use of your data by companies that want to profit from it and avoid paying out on life insurance or whatever it happens to be. Secondly, though, basically, we've got criminals coming into the home via connected devices. So, for example, we've seen criminals that have been spying on children through the webcams. What happens, basically, when your child is talking to Alexa, but as a cyber criminal, I've twisted Alexa, now it's radicalizing your child. and teaching them extremist content. So we have to be very careful about what we trust, the security of our homes and our devices and our systems, but we also need to make sure that we are doing our best to protect and control our privacy. Because I can tear you down. I can steal your identities. I can do all kinds of different things. But all of these are solvable. But we do need much more regulation in this space.
It brings me to a thought. You are talking to politicians. You advise them on technologies. You help them decide for the future. How much of it is in the hands of, let's say, there are many students in here. What can the students do to prevent these worst-case scenarios? Like, what would you recommend them to study, to look at, to be prepared for the near future? Yeah. And now we're not talking about 2050. We're talking about 2030, 2035. And we see how the world is rolling. So what is your recommendation?
So when you have a look at the vast majority of us, we're really good at talking up the benefits of, say, technology. I can use artificial intelligence today because we've done it to create a cancer vaccine. And it's 100% effective as well. What we're also quite good at doing as humans is seeing the worst in everything. And we say, I mean, as soon as AI started becoming decent, everyone was, AI will take over the world, it will destroy us all, it will kill us all, etc., etc. Okay. So how many of you have heard the storyline of AI will destroy us all? Hands up. I mean, it's going to be pretty much all of you, right? However, when we have a look at trying to avoid the worst consequences of the technologies we're developing today, did you know that 99.8% of all investment and development effort goes into developing the technologies for commercial gain, but only 0.3% goes on to trying to avoid technology from being misused? So when we have a look at rogue AI, we have ChatGPT as a model, and GPT-4 cost $200 million to train. When we have a look at Claude Anthropic, the CEO is talking about developing AI models that cost $1 billion to train in multi-billion-dollar and even $100-billion data centers. And yet, do you know there are only 3 companies and universities that are working on containment algorithms to try to control AI if it goes wrong? Out of all of the, last year, $700 billion worth of investment flowed into the development of AI. About $200,000 went into containment algorithms to try to control rogue AI. As humans, basically, we are fantastic at saying this is how we destroy the world, this is how technology destroys the world. We are absolutely awful. I mean, look at climate change. We are absolutely awful at saying, if we think technology is going to do this bad thing, what's the solution? So in answer to your question, one of the things that we can actually do is you get together in wargaming. So you come together like this, and you say, how could technology do something bad? And you talk about it, and you come up with a giant list, right? And then you say, well, okay, if this is the list of bad stuff it can do, how do we stop it? And then you try to turn those into solutions. And then it's down to governments traditionally to say, right, if you've developed a kill switch, that kill switch needs to be in the AI. So if the AI goes rogue, you can do a kill switch. And in California, they're about to pass a bill that means every artificial intelligence that's being developed has to have a kill switch. Guess how many AIs today have a kill switch? None of them.
Let us end with this beautiful sight into the future. Thank you, Matthew. We unfortunately ran out of time. If you want to get Matthew a beer after this talk, please do, or brinzové halušky. He will be more than happy to taste it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you.